Turba Philosophorum, by Arthur Edward Waite. The Epistle of Arislius, prefixed to the words of the sages, concerning the purport of this volume for the benefit of posterity, which proceeds as follows. Arislius, begotten of Pythagoras and a disciple of the disciples by the grace of the thrice great Hermes, drawing from the very seat of knowledge, wishes health and mercy unto all who shall come after. I testify that my master, Pythagoras the Italian, master of the wise and chief among the prophets, possessed a greater endowment of God and of wisdom than was granted to any individual subsequent to Hermes. Consequently, he resolved to convene his disciples, who had by then grown significantly in number and had been established as the foremost authorities across all regions for the discussion of this most precious art, so that their words might serve as a foundation for posterity. He therefore commanded Iximidris, a member of the highest council, to be the first to speak, who declared, the first dictum. Iximidris declares, I testify that the genesis of all things is a certain nature, which is perpetual and coequal to all things. Furthermore, the visible natures, characterized by their genesis and decay, represent the temporal states wherein the ends to which that nature guides them are perceived and summoned. Now, I instruct you that the stars are igneous in constitution and are constrained within their bounds by the air. Were it not for the humidity and density of the air serving to separate the solar flames from living entities, the sun would assuredly consume all creatures. However, God has provided this interposing air, lest his creations be incinerated. Do you not observe that the sun, upon rising in the heavens, subdues the air with its heat, and that this warmth penetrates from the superior to the inferior regions of the air? If, therefore, the air did not continuously exhale those winds by which creatures are generated, the sun's heat would undeniably eradicate all living things. Yet the sun is restrained by the air, which triumphs by uniting the heat of the sun with its own heat, and the humidity of water with its own humidity. Have you not observed how tenuous water is drawn upward into the air through the agency of the sun's heat, thereby assisting the water against itself? Should the water fail to nourish the air with this tenuous moisture, the sun would unequivocally overpower the air. Consequently, the fire extracts moisture from the water, through which the air subdues the fire itself. Thus, fire and water are adversaries devoid of consanguinity, for the fire is hot and dry, whereas the water is cold and moist. The air, being warm and moist, reconciles these forces through its harmonizing medium. Thus, the air is interposed between the humidity of water and the heat of fire to establish tranquility. And observe, all of you, how a spirit shall arise from the tenuous vapor of the air. For when heat is joined to moisture, there necessarily emanates a tenuous substance, which shall manifest as a wind. For the heat of the sun extracts a tenuous essence from the air, which likewise becomes spirit and life unto all creatures. All of this, however, is ordained in such a manner by the will of God, and a coruscation manifests when the heat of the sun touches and ruptures a cloud. The Turba states, you have described the fire exquisitely, precisely in accordance with your comprehension of it, and you have placed your faith in the word of your brother. The second dictum. Iximidris declares, I magnify the air in accordance with the profound discourse of Iximidris, for the great work is thereby enhanced. The air is both inspissated and rarefied. It assumes warmth and succumbs to cold. Its inspissation occurs when it is divided in the heavens by the elongation of the sun. Conversely, its rarefaction transpires when, through the exaltation of the sun in the heavens, the air becomes warm and is rarefied. This condition is comparable to the complexion of spring, within the division of the seasons, which is inherently neither warm nor cold. For just as the constituted disposition mutates in tandem with the shifting distinctions of the soul, so too is winter altered. Therefore, the air becomes inspissated when the sun withdraws from it, whereupon cold supervenes upon humanity. To this the Turba replied, "You have described the air masterfully, providing a thorough account of your knowledge regarding its nature." The third dictum, Anaxagoras declares, "I proclaim that the foundation of all things created by God consists of weight and proportion, for weight governs all matter, and the weight and spicitude of the earth are rendered manifest through proportion. Yet weight exists exclusively within a body. Furthermore, know, O Turba, that the spicitude of the four elements reposes within the earth. The spicitude of fire descends into the air, while the spicitude of the air, combined with that which it received from the fire, descends into the water. Finally, the spicitude of the water, augmented by the combined spicitudes of fire and air, comes to rest in the earth. Have you not observed how the spicitude of the four elements is conjoined within the earth? Consequently, the earth is the most heavily inspissated of all." Then the Turba replies, "You have spoken eloquently. Verily, the earth is more inspissated than the remaining elements, which, therefore, is the most rarefied of the four, and most worthy to embody the quintessential rarity among them." He answers, "Fire is the most rarefied of all, and unto it is drawn whatever is rarefied among these four. However, air is less rarefied than fire, as it is warm and moist, whereas fire is warm and dry, and that which is warm and dry inherently possesses greater rarity than that which is warm and moist." They ask of him, "Which element, then, is of less rarity than air?" He answers, "Water, for cold and moisture are inherent to it, and any cold, humid substance is of lesser rarity than a warm, humid one." Then they say unto him, "You have spoken the truth. What, therefore, is of less rarity than water?" He answers, "Earth, because it is cold and dry, and that which is cold and dry possesses less rarity than that which is cold and moist." Pythagoras declares, "You have provided an excellent description, O sons of the doctrine, of these four natures from which God has created all things. Blessed, therefore, is the one who comprehends what you have declared. For, from the very apex of the world, he shall discover no intention greater than his own. Let us, therefore, bring our discourse to perfection." They reply, "Instruct each participant to take up the discourse in turn. Speak, O Pandolphus." The fourth dictum, Pandolphus declares, "I signify to posterity that air is a tenuous materialization of water, and it is not separated from it. It remains stationed above the dry earth, that is to say, the air concealed within the water that lies beneath the earth. Were this air not to exist, the earth could not remain suspended above the humid water." They answer, "You have spoken well. Complete, therefore, your discourse." He continues, "The air concealed within the subterranean water is precisely what sustains the earth, preventing it from plunging into said water. Furthermore, it safeguards the earth from being inundated by those waters. The province of the air is, therefore, to occupy space and enforce separation between diverse elements, namely water and earth. Moreover, it is constituted as a peacemaker between hostile forces, specifically water and fire, dividing them lest they mutually obliterate one another. The Turba states, should you provide an illustration of this principle, it would render the matter clearer to those who do not yet understand. He answers, an egg serves as an apt illustration, for within it, for distinct elements are conjoined. The visible cortex or shell represents the earth, while the albumin or white portion constitutes the water. Furthermore, an exceedingly delicate inner cortex is attached to the outer shell, representing, as I have previously signified to you, the separating medium between earth and water, namely, the air that divides the earth from the water. Similarly, the yolk of the egg represents fire. The membrane containing the yolk corresponds to that secondary air which separates the water from the fire. Yet they are intrinsically one and the same air, that which separates the frigid elements, the earth from the water, and that which separates the water from the fire. However, the lower air is of greater density than the upper air. Conversely, the upper air is more rarefied and subtle, being situated closer to the fire than the lower air. Within the egg, therefore, reside for elements earth, water, air, and fire. However, the essence of the sun, exclusive of these four, is situated at the center of the yolk, and this constitutes the chick. Consequently, all philosophers engaged in this most excellent art have proposed the egg as an exemplar, employing this very symbol to preside over their great work. The fifth dictum. Aristlius saith, know that the earth is an elevation and not a plain, for which reason the sun doth not ascend over all the terrestrial zones in a single hour, whereas, were it flat, the sun would rise instantaneously over the entirety of the earth. Parmenides saith, thou hast spoken with admirable brevity, O Aristlius. He answereth, is there aught that the Master hath bequeathed unto us which bears witness to the contrary? Nevertheless, I testify that God is one, having neither engendered nor been begotten, and that the summit of all things subsequent to him comprises earth and fire. For fire is tenuous and luminous, governing all things upon the earth, whereas the earth, being ponderous and dense, sustains all things that are ruled by fire. The sixth dictum. Lucas saith, ye speak solely regarding the four natures, and each among you observes some particular aspect concerning them. Now I testify unto you that all things which God hath created derive from these four natures, and the entities which have been fashioned therefrom shall return into them. Within these living creatures are generated and perish, and all events transpire exactly as God hath predestined. Democritus, the disciple of Lucas, answereth, thou hast spoken astutely, O Lucas, in thy treatment of the four natures. Then saith Aristlius, O Democritus, seeing that thy knowledge was derived from Lucas, it is presumptuous to speak amongst those who are intimately acquainted with thy master. Lucas answereth, albeit Democritus received from me the science of natural phenomena, that knowledge was originally derived from the philosophers of the Indies and from the Babylonians. I consider that he surpasses those of his own generation in this erudition. The Turba answereth, when he attains unto that mature age, he shall provide no small measure of satisfaction, but being yet in his youth, he ought to keep silence. The seventh dictum. Locusta saith, all those entities which have been described by Lucas are but two, of which one is neither comprehended nor articulated, save through piety, for it is neither seen nor felt. Pythagoras saith, thou hast broached a subject which, if carried to its conclusion, thou wilt describe with profound subtlety. State, therefore, what constitutes this thing which is neither felt, seen, nor known. Then he, it is that which remains unknown, because in this world it is discerned by reason apart from its sensory agents, which are sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. O assembly of philosophers, know ye not that it is solely sight which can distinguish white from black, and hearing alone which can discriminate between a virtuous and a wicked word? Similarly, a wholesome odor cannot be separated by reason from one which is fetid, except through the olfactory sense, nor can sweetness be discriminated from bitterness save by means of taste, nor smoothness from roughness unless by touch. The Turba answereth, Thou hast spoken eloquently, yet hast thou omitted to discourse upon that particular entity which is neither known nor described, except by reason and piety. Saith he, Are ye then in such haste? Know that the entity which is cognized in none of these five manners is a sublime creation, and, as such, is neither seen nor felt, but is perceived by reason alone, of which very reason nature confesses that God is a partaker. They answer, Thou hast spoken with profound truth and excellence. And he, I shall now provide a further explication. Know that this creation, that is to say, the world, possesseth a light, which is the sun, and this same light is more subtle than all other natures, being so ordered that living beings might attain unto vision. But if this subtle light were removed, they would be cast into darkness, perceiving naught except the light of the moon, or of the stars, or of fire, all of which are ultimately derived from the illumination of the sun, which causeth all entities to radiate light. To this end, God hath appointed the sun to serve as the light of the world, by reason of the sun's attenuated nature. And know that the aforementioned sublime creation possesseth no need for the light of this sun, because the sun resideth beneath that creation, which is infinitely more subtle and far more lucid. This illumination, which is more lucid than the radiance of the sun, they have derived from the light of God, which is more subtle than their own light. Know also that the created world is composed of two dense elements and two rare elements, yet nothing of the dense existeth within the sublime creation. Consequently, the sun is more rarefied than all inferior creations. The Turba answereth, Thou hast most excellently described that which thou hast related, and if, good master, thou shouldst utter aught whereby our hearts might be vivified, which presently are mortified by folly, thou wilt confer upon us a profound boon. The eighth dictum. Pythagoras saith, I affirm that God existed before all things, and with him there was naught, exactly as he was at the beginning. But know, all ye philosophers, that I declare this in order to fortify your understanding concerning these four elements and arcana, as well as the sciences pertaining thereto, unto which no man may arrive save by the will of God. Understand that when God was alone, he created for substances fire, air, water, and earth, out of which elements he subsequently fashioned all others, both the sublime and the inferior, because he predestined from the beginning that all creatures extracted from water should multiply and increase, so that they might dwell within the world and execute his judgments therein. Consequently, prior to all else, he created the four elements, out of which he afterwards formed whatsoever he willed, that is to say, diverse creatures, some among which were produced from a single element. The Turba saith, Which are these, O Master? And he, They are the angels, whom he created solely out of fire. But the Turba, which, then, are created out of two? And he, out of the elements of fire and air are the sun, the moon, and the stars composed. Hence the angels are more lucid than the sun, moon, and stars, because they are created from a single substance, which is less dense than two, whereas the sun and the stars are fashioned from a composition of fire and air. The Turba saith, And what concerning the creation of heaven? Then God created the heaven out of water and air, whence it is likewise composed of two, namely, the second of the rarer elements, which is air, and the second of the denser elements, which is water. And they, Master, continue thy discourse concerning these three, and rejoice our hearts with thy sayings, which serve as life unto the dead. But the other answereth, I declare unto you that God hath furthermore made creatures out of three elements and out of four. Out of three are created flying beings, beasts, and vegetation. Some among these are created out of water, air, and earth, while others are formed out of fire, air, and earth. But the Turba saith, Distinguish these diverse creatures one from another. And beasts are created out of fire, air, and earth. Perishing things out of fire, air, and water, because flying creatures and all vegetation possessing a spirit are created out of water, whereas all brute animals are derived from earth, air, and fire. Yet within vegetation there is no fire, for such things are created out of earth, water, and air. Whereat the Turba saith, Let us assume that a fire, with your reverence's pardon, doth indeed reside within vegetation. And ye have spoken the truth, and I affirm that they do contain fire. And they, Whence ariseth that fire? He answereth, Out of the heat of the air which is concealed therein. For I have signified that a subtle fire is present within the air, but the elementary fire concerning which ye were in doubt is not produced, except within things that possess both spirit and soul. But out of the four elements were our father Adam and his descendants created, that is to say, of fire, air, water, and likewise earth. Understand, all ye who are wise, how everything which God hath created out of a single essence perisheth not until the day of judgment. The definition of death is the dissolution of the composite. However, there is no dissolution of that which is simple, for it is inherently singular. Death consists fundamentally in the separation of the soul from the body, because anything constituted of two, three, or four components is destined to disintegrate, and this very dissolution is death. Understand, furthermore, that no complex substance lacking fire can eat, drink, or sleep, for in all things possessing a spirit, it is the fire that consumes. The Turba inquires, How is it, Master, that the angels, who are created of fire, do not consume food, given your assertion that fire is the agent of consumption? He responds, Thus you fall into doubt, each holding to his own opinion, and you have become adversaries. Yet, if you possess true knowledge of the elements, you would not deny these principles. I concur with all who judge that it is not simple fire that consumes, but rather dense fire. The angels, therefore, are not fashioned from dense fire, but from the most ethereal of subtle fires. Being created from that which is profoundly simple and exceedingly attenuated, they neither eat, drink, nor sleep. The Turba replies, Master, our faculties are capable of perception, for by the assistance of God we have thoroughly examined your teachings. However, our capacities for hearing and sight remain inadequate to bear such profound matters. May God reward you for the sake of your disciples, as it is for the purpose of instructing future generations that you have summoned us from our respective countries, a recompense for which you shall assuredly not fail to receive from the judge to come. Arislius states, Seeing that you have assembled us for the benefit of posterity, I believe that no explanations would prove more useful than precise definitions of those four elements you have instructed us to master. He replies, I presume none of you are ignorant of the fact that all the wise have propounded their definitions in God. The Turba responds, should your disciples overlook anything, it is incumbent upon you, O Master, to prevent any omissions for the sake of future generations. He answers, if it pleases you, I shall commence the exposition here, as envious men have scattered these matters throughout their volumes. Otherwise, I shall append it to the conclusion of the book. Whereupon the Turba says, place it wherever you deem it will be most invaluable for future generations. He declares, I shall place it where it will neither be recognized by the foolish nor overlooked by the sons of the doctrine, for it constitutes the key, the perfection, and the ultimate end. The ninth dictum, Eximinus states, God created all things by his word, having spoken unto them. Let them be, and they were made, alongside the four elements, earth, water, air, and fire, which he coagulated. Contrary things were thus commingled. For we observe that fire is hostile to water, water is hostile to fire, and both are adversarial toward earth and air. Yet, God has united them in harmony, so that they might love one another. Out of these four elements, therefore, are all things created, heaven and its throne, the angels, the sun, the moon, and the stars, the earth and the sea, along with all entities residing within the sea. These are indeed varied and unalike, for their natures, as well as their forms, have been rendered diverse by God. Yet, this diversity is far more profound than I have articulated. Each of these natures is intrinsically varied, and through a legion of variances, the constitution of each is rendered distinct. Now, this diversity subsists within all creatures, as they were forged from disparate elements. Had they been generated from a single element, they would have possessed concordant natures. However, as diverse elements are mingled herein, they surrender their original natures. For the dry, when mixed with the humid, and the cold, when combined with the hot, become neither cold nor hot. Similarly, the humid, when blended with the dry, becomes neither dry nor humid. However, when the four elements are fully commingled, they harmonize, and from this union proceed creatures that never attain perfection unless they are left by night to putrefy and become visibly corrupt. God subsequently completed his creation through the mechanisms of proliferation, sustenance, life, and governance. Sons of the doctrine, it is not without profound purpose that I have delineated the disposition of these four elements to you, for within them resides a secret arcanum. Two of these elements are perceptible to the senses of touch and vision, and their operations and virtues are well known. These are earth and water. Nevertheless, there exist two additional elements that are neither visible nor tangible, which yield nothing directly, whose locus is never perceived, and whose operations and forces remain unknown, save through their effects upon the former elements, namely earth and water. Now, when these four elements are not commingled, no human desire can be accomplished. However, upon being mixed and departing from their fundamental natures, they transmute into an entirely different entity. Let us meditate upon these matters most carefully. The Turba states, Master, if you speak, we shall give our utmost heed to your words. He replies, I have now discoursed and have done so thoroughly. I shall speak only words of utility, which you must follow precisely as they are spoken. Let all present recognize that no true tincture is produced except from our copper. Therefore, do not exhaust your intellects and your wealth, lest you fill your hearts with sorrow. I shall provide you with a fundamental axiom. Unless you transmute the aforementioned copper into a state of whiteness, forging visible coins, and subsequently transform it once more into redness until a tincture. Results, you accomplish absolutely nothing. Therefore, incinerate the copper, fracture it, and deprive it of its blackness through cooking, imbuing, and washing until it achieves whiteness. Thereafter, govern it. The 10th dictum. Aurelius declares, "Know that the key to this great work is the art of coins. Take, therefore, the body which I have shown to you and reduce it into thin tablets. Next, immerse the said tablets in the water of our sea, which is the permanent water. Once the vessel is covered, place it over a gentle fire until the tablets melt and dissolve into waters, or ethylii, which are one and the same. Blend, cook, and simmer this mixture over a gentle fire until brodium is produced, similar to saginatum. Subsequently, stir in its water of ethylii until it becomes coagulated and the coins grow variegated, a state we refer to as the flour of salt. Cook it, therefore, until it is entirely deprived of its blackness and the pristine whiteness appears. Then triturate it, amalgamate it with the gum of gold, and cook the mixture until it transforms into red ethylii. Exercise patience in your pounding, lest you succumb to weariness. Imbue the ethylii with its own water, that which previously issued from it, and which is also permanent water, until it assumes a red hue. This, then, is the burnt copper, which serves as both the leaven of gold and the flour thereof. Cook this substance with the permanent water, which remains perpetually with it, until the moisture is entirely evaporated. Continue this operation until all the water is consumed and the substance is reduced to a most subtle powder. The 11th dictum. Parmenides states, "You must realize that envious men have written voluminously concerning various waters, brodiums, stones, and metals, seeking only to deceive all those who aspire to attain true knowledge. Abandon all of these, therefore, and transmute the white into red utilizing this our copper, taking copper and lead to represent the grease or blackness, and employing tin for the liquefaction. Know furthermore that unless you govern the nature of truth, harmonizing its complexions and compositions impeccably, joining the consanguineous with the consanguineous, and the first with the first, you act improperly and will effect nothing. For natures will inevitably seek out their corresponding natures, follow them, and rejoice in their union. Within these bonds they putrefy and are generated anew, because nature is governed by nature. She destroys it, reduces it to dust, obliterates it to nothingness, and ultimately renews it herself, repeating the cycle and frequently reproducing the exact same form. Therefore, study the texts so that you may comprehend the nature of truth, what putrefies it and what renews it, what savor it possesses, what natural neighbors it claims, and how they love one another. Observe also how, after such love, enmity and corruption intervene, and learn how these disparate natures must be united and brought to peace, until they grow equally gentle within the fire. Having carefully observed these truths of the art, set your hands diligently to the great work. If indeed ye possess no understanding of the natures of truth, approach not the work, since naught shall follow but harm, disaster, and sorrow. Consider, therefore, the teachings of the wise, how they have encapsulated the entirety of the work in this maxim. Nature rejoices in nature, and nature contains nature. Within these words there is manifested unto you the whole of the work. Forsake, therefore, manifold and superfluous matters, and take quicksilver, coagulating it within the body of magnesia, in kuhul, or in sulfur that does not burn. Render this same nature white, and place it upon our copper, once it attains whiteness. And should ye cook it further, it becomes red, whereupon if ye proceed to coction, it is transmuted into gold. I assure you that it transforms the very sea into red and the hue of gold. Know ye also that gold is not transmuted into redness save by permanent water, because nature rejoices in nature. Reduce, therefore, the same by means of coction into a humor, until the concealed nature appears. If, therefore, it be manifested externally, 7 times imbue the same with water, cooking, imbuing, and washing, until it becomes red. O those celestial natures, multiplying the natures of truth by the will of God. That potent nature, which vanquished and conquered natures, and caused its own natures to rejoice and be glad. This, therefore, is that singular and spiritual nature unto which the God thereof can bestow what fire cannot. Consequently, we glorify and magnify that species, for nothing is more precious within the true tincture, nor can the like in the smallest degree be found. This is that truth which those who investigate wisdom cherish. For when it is liquefied with bodies, the most exalted operation is accomplished. If ye but knew the truth, what profound gratitude ye would bestow upon me. Learn, therefore, that whilst you are tinging the cinders, you must destroy those elements that are intermixed. For it overcomes those which are mixed, and transmutes them into its own hue. And just as it visibly overcame the surface, even so has it mastered the interior. And if one be volatile but the other endures the fire, either joined to the other endures the flame. Know also, that if the vapors have whitened the surfaces, they shall most certainly whiten the interiors. Know further, all ye seekers after wisdom, that a single matter overcomes 4, and our sulfur alone consumes all things. The Turba answereth, Thou hast spoken with surpassing excellence, O Parmenides, yet thou hast not demonstrated the disposition of the smoke unto posterity, nor how the same is whitened. The 12th dictum. Lucas saith, I shall speak at this time, following the footsteps of the ancients. Know, therefore, all ye seekers after wisdom, that this treatise doth not proceed from the beginning of the governance. Take quicksilver, which is derived from the male, and coagulate it according to custom. Observe that I am speaking unto you in accordance with custom, for it has been already coagulated. Here, therefore, is not the commencement of the governance, but I prescribe this method, namely, that you shall take the quicksilver from the male, and shall impose it upon either iron, tin, or governed copper, and it shall be whitened. White magnesia is forged in the same manner, and the male is converted alongside it. But forasmuch as there exists a certain affinity between the magnet and the iron, therefore our nature rejoices. Take, then, the vapor which the ancients commanded you to extract, and cook the same with its own body until tin is produced. Purge away its blackness according to custom, and cleanse and roast it at an equable fire until it is whitened. Yet every body is whitened with governed quicksilver, for nature converts nature. Take, therefore, magnesia, water of alum, water of nitre, water of the sea, and water of iron. Whiten them with smoke. Whatsoever ye desire to be whitened is whitened by means of this smoke, because it is intrinsically white and whitens all things. Mix, therefore, the aforementioned smoke with its feces until it is coagulated and becomes exceedingly white. Roast this white copper until it germinates of its own accord, since the magnesia when whitened does not suffer the spirits to escape, nor the shadow of copper to appear, because nature contains nature. Take, therefore, all ye sons of the doctrine, the white sulphureous nature, whiten it with salt and dew, or with the flour of white salt, until it becomes surpassingly white. And know ye, that the flour of white salt is ether derived from Ethelia. The same must be boiled for 7 days, until it shall become as gleaming marble, for when it has achieved this condition it is a most profound arcanum, seeing that sulfur is mingled with sulfur, whence an excellent work is accomplished, by reason of the affinity between them, because natures rejoice in meeting their own natures. Take, therefore, Mardek and whiten the same with Gadenby, which is to say, wine and vinegar and permanent water. Roast and coagulate this mixture until the whole no longer liquefies in a fire stronger than its own, namely the former fire. Securely seal the mouth of the vessel, yet let it remain associated with its neighbor, that it may kindle the whiteness thereof, and beware lest the fire blaze up, for in such a case it becomes red prematurely, and this shall profit you nothing, because in the inception of the governance you require the white. Afterwards coagulate the same until you attain the red. Let your fire remain gentle during the whitening, until coagulation takes place. Know that once it is coagulated we pronounce it the soul, and it is more swiftly converted from nature into nature. This, therefore, is sufficient for those who occupy themselves with the art of coins, because a single thing brings it to fruition but many operate therein. For ye require not a multitude of things, but one thing only, which in each and every grade of your work is transmuted into another nature. The Turba saith, Master, if you speak as the wise have spoken, and do so with brevity, they shall follow you who do not wish to be wholly engulfed in darkness. The 13th dictum. Pythagoras saith, we posit another governance which does not stem from a different root, but merely differs in name. And know, all ye seekers after this science and wisdom, that whatsoever the envious may have enjoined within their tomes concerning the composition of natures that agree together, in savor there is but one, albeit to the sight they appear as diverse as possible. Know also that the subject which they have described in so many ways follows and attains its companion without fire, even as the magnet is drawn to the iron, unto which the said thing is not vainly compared, nor to a seed, nor to a matrix, for it shares a likeness with these as well. And this self-same thing, which follows its companion without the aid of fire, causes a multitude of colors to appear upon embracing it, for this reason, that the said singular thing enters into every regimen, and is found everywhere, being a stone, and yet not a stone, common and precious, hidden and concealed yet known by everyone, of a single name and of manifold names, which is the spume of the moon. This stone, therefore, is not a stone, for it is infinitely more precious. Without it nature never operates anything. Its name is one, yet we have designated it by many names on account of the supreme excellence of its nature. The Turba answereth, O Master, wilt thou not disclose some of those names for the guidance of seekers? And he, it is called white Ethelia, white copper, and that which flees from the fire and alone whitens copper. Fracture, therefore, the white stone, and afterwards coagulate it with milk. Then pound the calx within the mortar, taking utmost care that the humidity does not escape from the vessel, but coagulate it within the vessel until it shall become a cinder. Cook it also with the spume of Luna and regulate the process. For ye shall find the stone fractured, and already imbued with its own water. This, therefore, is the stone which we call by all names, which assimilates the work and drinks of it, and is the very stone out of which also all colors appear. Take, therefore, that same gum which is derived from the scoriae, and mix it with the cinder of calx, which you have governed, and with the feces which you know, moistening them with permanent water. Thereafter, observe whether it has been reduced to a powder. Should it not be so, roast it within a fire more intense than the first, until it may be pulverized. Subsequently, imbue it with permanent water, and as the colors increasingly vary, so too allow them to be subjected to greater heat. Understand, moreover, that if you take white quicksilver, or the spume of Luna, and proceed as instructed, disintegrating it with a gentle fire, it shall coagulate and become a stone. From this stone, therefore, once it is fractured, a multitude of colors will manifest before you. Should any ambiguity arise for you within our discourse, proceed exactly as commanded, governing the substance until a white and coruscating stone is produced, thereby achieving your purpose. The 14th dictum. Axibophen states, Master, thou hast spoken without envy, exactly as befits thee, and for this may God grant thee reward. Pythagoras replies, May God likewise deliver thee, Axibophen, from envy. He then continues, Ye must know, O assembly of the wise, that sulfurs are contained within sulfurs, and humidity within humidity. The Turba responds, The envious, O Axibophen, have uttered sentiments akin to this. Instruct us, therefore, what is this humidity? And he replies, Humidity is a venom, and when this venom penetrates a body, it tinges it with an invariable color, in no way permitting the soul to separate from the body, for it is equal unto it. Regarding this, the envious have declared, when one flees and the other pursues, the one eventually seizes upon the other. Thereafter they flee no longer, because nature has apprehended its equal in the manner of an adversary, and they mutually destroy one another. For this reason, from the mixed sulphureous sulfur a most precious color is engendered, one that neither varies nor retreats from the flame. Once the soul enters the interior of the body, binding it together and imparting its tincture. I shall reiterate my discourse concerning the Tyrian dye. Take the creature known as Kenkel, seeing that all its water possesses a Tyrian hue, and govern it with a gentle fire, as is customary, until it is reduced to earth, wherein a faint trace of color will remain. However, should you desire to obtain the Tyrian tincture, take the humidity that the substance has expelled, and introduce it gradually into a vessel, adding the tincture whose color previously displeased you. Thereafter, decoct it with that same marine water until it attains dryness. Subsequently, moisten it with that humor, desiccate it gradually, and cease not to imbue, to decoct, and to dry, until it is entirely saturated with its own humor. Then abandon it for several days within its vessel, until the most precious Tyrian color emerges upon its surface. Observe how I delineate this regimen for you. Prepare it with the urine of youths, with marine water, and with immaculate permanent water, so that it may be tinged. Then, decoct it over a gentle fire until the blackness thoroughly departs from it, rendering it easily pulverized. Decoct it, therefore, within its own humor until it swathes itself in a red hue. Yet if ye wish to elevate it to the Tyrian color, imbue it with continual water and mix it to the extent ye deem sufficient, according to the judgment of the eye. Blend it adequately with permanent water, and decoct it until the rust absorbs the moisture. Following this, wash it with the marine water thou hast prepared, which is the water of desiccated calx. Cook it until it imbibes its own moisture, and repeat this procedure day by day. I assure you that a color will subsequently manifest before you, the likes of which the Tyrians themselves have never produced. And should ye desire an even more exalted hue, place the gum into the permanent water, using it to dye the substance alternately, and afterwards desiccate it beneath the sun. Then restore it to the aforementioned water, and the black Tyrian color shall be intensified. Be aware, however, that ye cannot impart the purple color save by means of cold. Take, therefore, water that possesses a cold nature, and steep wool therein until it extracts the potency of the tincture from the water. Know also that the philosophers have named the force emanating from that water the flower. Seek, therefore, your intent within the said water. Immerse therein the contents of the vessel for days and nights, until it is arrayed in a most precious Tyrian color. The 15th dictum. Phryx declares, O all ye seekers of wisdom, know that the foundation of this art, for the sake of which many have perished, is entirely singular. There exists one substance stronger than all natures, deemed profoundly sublime in the estimation of philosophers, yet regarded by fools as the most common of things. For us, however, it is a substance to be deeply reverenced. Woe unto all ye fools! How ignorant are ye of this art, for which ye would willingly perish if only ye understood it. I swear to you that were kings acquainted with it, none of us would ever attain this prize. Oh, how this nature transmutes body into spirit! Oh, how admirable is nature! How she presides over all, and ultimately conquers all. Pythagoras says, Name this nature, O Phryx, and he replies, It is an exceedingly sharp vinegar, one that reduces gold into sheer spirit. Without this vinegar, neither whiteness, nor blackness, nor redness, nor rust can be engendered. Understand that when it is mixed with the body, it is contained therein, becoming one with it. It converts the body into a spirit and tinges it with a spiritual, invariable tincture that remains indelible. Know, furthermore, that should ye place the body over the fire without vinegar, it shall be scorched and entirely corrupted. And recognize, moreover, that the first humor is cold. Exercise caution, therefore, regarding the fire, which is profoundly inimical to cold. Accordingly, the wise have proclaimed, Govern gently until the sulfur becomes incombustible. The wise have already revealed the disposition of this art to those endowed with reason, and the crowning principle of their art, as they have noted, is that a mere fraction of this sulfur can incinerate a formidable body. Consequently, they venerate it and invoke it at the very inception of their texts, and thus did the son of Adam describe it. For this vinegar burns the body, converts it into a cinder, and simultaneously whitens it, which, if ye decoct it thoroughly and purge it of its blackness, transforms into a stone, emerging as a coin of the most intense whiteness. Decoct the stone, therefore, until it is completely disintegrated, and subsequently dissolve and temper it with marine water. Know also that the commencement of the entire great work is the whitening, which is succeeded by the redness, and ultimately the perfection of the endeavor. Following this, however, through the agency of vinegar and by the will of God, a supreme perfection ensues. Now, I have revealed to you, O disciples of this Turba, the disposition of the single substance, which is more perfect, more precious, and more honorable than all other natures, and I swear to you before God that I have searched long. among the ancient tomes to attain the knowledge of this one thing, whilst fervently praying to God that he might reveal its identity to me. My prayer was answered. He revealed to me clean water, whereby I recognized pure vinegar, and the more I studied the texts, the more profoundly I was illuminated. The 16th dictum. Socrates declares, "Know, O multitude of those who yet remain among the sons of the doctrine that no tincture can be generated without lead, which possesses the requisite virtue. Have ye not observed how thrice great Hermes infused redness into the body, whereupon it was transmuted into an invariable hue? Know, therefore, that the primary virtue is vinegar, and the secondary is the lead of which the wise have spoken. Should it be infused into all bodies, it renders them unalterable, tinging them with an invariable color. Take, therefore, lead derived from the stone called kuhul. Ensure it is of the most superior quality, and let it be decocted until it turns black. Thereafter, pulverize it with water of niter until it assumes the thickness of grease, and decoct it once more within a brilliantly intense fire until the spicitude of the body is eradicated, the water having been cast off. Kindle a flame above it, therefore, until the stone becomes immaculate, abounding in precious metal, and exceptionally white. Subsequently, pound the substance with dew and the sun, and with both sea and rain water for 31 days. Proceed for 10 days with salt water, and 10 days with fresh water, whereupon you shall discover it to be akin to a metallic stone. Boil this substance once more with water of niter until it is transformed into tin through liquefaction. Continue the decoction until it is entirely deprived of moisture and rendered dry. Understand, however, that upon becoming dry, it swiftly absorbs whatever remains of its humor, for it is burnt lead. Exercise profound caution, nonetheless, lest it be consumed by fire. Thus we designate it incombustible sulfur. Triturate the substance with the most pungent vinegar, and heat it until it thickens, taking absolute care lest the vinegar volatilize into smoke and dissipate. Sustain this coction for 150 days. Now, therefore, I have elucidated the disposition of the white lead. All that ensues is no more than women's work and child's play. Furthermore, recognize that the arcanum of the work of gold originates from the male and the female. However, I have revealed the male unto you within the lead, just as I have similarly disclosed the female unto you within the orpiment. Therefore, intermingle the orpiment with the lead, for the female rejoices in receiving the vigor of the male, being sustained by him. Conversely, the male receives a tinging spirit from the female. Commingle them, accordingly, placing the mixture within a glass vessel, and triturate it with ethelia and exceptionally sharp vinegar. Heat this for 7 days, remaining vigilant lest the arcanum dissipate in smoke, and allow it to rest throughout the night. If, however, you desire it to assume the hue of mud, considering it is already dry, imbue it once more with vinegar. Now, therefore, I have made known unto you the virtue of orpiment, which represents the woman through whom the greatest arcanum is achieved. Do not reveal these mysteries unto the wicked, for they shall merely scoff. It is the ethelia of vinegar that is introduced into the preparation, through which God perfects the work, and whereby spirits seize possession of bodies, thereby rendering them spiritual. The 17th dictum. Zimon declares, O Turba of philosophers and disciples, you have now discoursed upon the process of whitening, yet the treatment of the reddening remains. Know, all you who pursue this art, that unless you whiten you cannot render red, for the two natures are nothing other than the red and the white. Whiten, therefore, the red, and redden the white. Understand, furthermore, that the year is partitioned into 4 seasons. The first season possesses a free. Do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.